Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wilson Center. Welcome to the people sitting in this auditorium, those in overflow rooms, those who are listening to us or watching us in various media, and who will intersect us on the internet sometime in the next days and weeks. I'm Jane Harman, President and CEO of the Wilson Center. And as some of you know, we recently joined forces with NPR to create this year-long public event series that we call the National Conversation. NPR's president and CEO, my California buddy, Gary Nell, who has a Muppet, which is an improvement on himself, named after him for his role before running Sesame Street, is sitting in the front row, as is Joe Gildenhorn, Ambassador Joe Gildenhorn, who is the chairman of the Wilson Center Board of Trustees, and I'd like to welcome many other friends here today. My hope is that this series will provide the public, that is you, with new opportunities to engage in much-needed civil discourse, free from spin, imagine that in this election season, in the safe political space that the Wilson Center provides. For today's event, the Wilson Center and NPR partnered with the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, a 90-year-old nonpartisan institution well known for its studies of American opinion on foreign policy. The Wilson Center and I personally have many good friends who are part of the Chicago Council, especially the chairman, Lester Crown, a dear friend who will be involved with some activities we're conducting in Chicago later this month. And we also recently participated in a panel on the Middle East with the council in Chicago, and as I said, are so pleased that they have come here today. The council's most recent biennial survey, which looks at American public opinion on the U.S.'s role in the post-9/11 world, will be the launch pad for today's conversation. All on this panel and I were in government on 9/11, which, by the way, occurred on a crisp and clear Tuesday, which will be tomorrow's weather, so I understand, and the day of the week, that is tomorrow. We were in different roles, all of us, regardless of party position or party, struggled to find the right strategies to keep our country safe. Looking back on it, I think we did some things right and some things wrong. I lament especially that we never debated and put in place a comprehensive legal framework for the post-9/11 world. Mike Hayden, whom you'll meet in a moment, was prepared to help with this by fully briefing the intelligence committees at more than one point, but at one point was called back by the White House and not able to brief us on a crucial part of the strategy. There was a headline of an op-ed in yesterday's New York Times, and it was, "How Resilient is Post-9/11 America?" The piece made the point, which I think is critical for us to remember, that the best weapon against terror is refusing to be terrorized. Oklahoma City is a terrific example. Since the bombing in 1995, the deadliest attack in the U.S. before 9/11, the city has raised hundreds of millions of dollars to build everything from a performing arts center and a library to a baseball park and public schools. That's the kind of message the United States should be sending to anyone, whether halfway around the world or here at home, who may be fantasizing about committing an act of terror on American soil. That message goes like this: if you attack us, you will make us stronger. We will come together, rise with resilience, and emerge more prepared and resolved. Unfortunately, in this election season, few voters are thinking about our role in the world or our role on these matters. In fact, in the spring, Reuters asked registered voters what issues were most important to them in the presidential election campaign. Guess how many said foreign policy? 3%. That's compared to 53% for jobs in the economy, 14% for health care, and 9% for family values. The Chicago Council's new survey underscores this trend in public thinking. In fact, 38% of Americans polled, among the highest levels ever recorded since the Council's 1974 survey during the Vietnam War, say that the U.S. should stay out of world affairs. And the number of people who support an active role in world affairs has also dropped significantly, from 71% in 2002 to 61% today. The isolationist trend worries me especially, and it poses the issue: how should the White House and lawmakers think about and shape our foreign policy? As mentioned, I believe the best way for the U.S. to lead requires debating and clearly explaining the intersection of our actions and our values. Some of you were in this room in April when John Brennan gave us that kind of description of our drone program, a key piece of our counterterrorism strategy. As he knows, John Brennan knows, and many of you, I'm sure, agree, just playing whack-a-mole alone won't keep us safe. President Obama understood that when, as a senator, he delivered a major speech here at the Wilson Center during the last campaign and said, quote, "Too often since 9/11, the extremists have defined us, not the other way around." So in my view, we can only win the argument by, as President Obama said, authoring our own story. This afternoon's panel will explore this vital question, the vital question of our role in the world. And we have a terrific lineup. They're all dear friends, and they're sitting right in the front row. I recall traumatizing Phil Mudd when he was a witness before my subcommittee. We don't have time to go into that today, but just assume I'm right. Jim Zogby is a singular voice in helping understand the Arab perspective and was on our enormously interesting panel just a year ago entitled 9/11, The Next 10 Years. We're also happy to have Tom Gelton. I teased him by calling him Mr. Martha Raddatz, who is an esteemed correspondent for NPR and was reporting live from the Pentagon at the moment it was hit on 9/11. Martha Raddatz is one of my role models for her brilliance, professionalism, and unflinching readiness to go anywhere and do anything to get the story. She will be chairing the very important vice presidential debate, by the way, in just a few weeks, and I'm sure it will be carried live on NPR. And finally, we are delighted. I didn't mention, did I? Have I covered everybody? No. Mike Hayden. How did I forget Mike Hayden? That's impossible. So I mentioned that he was trying to be very helpful during the evolution of the very difficult times after 9/11. And I recall one moment that I do want to expound on, and that is calling him on a Saturday after the President Bush, had substantially declassified the fact that we had a terrorism surveillance program and suggesting that he come and brief the full intelligence committees on the Hill. He readily agreed. He was shopping for a Christmas present for his wife and said, "I'll come in today, but you have to clear it with the White House." This is what I mentioned. And the White House first cleared it and then pulled that back, so Mike didn't come. But there have been many times over many years when Mike Hayden personally, and you'll hear this today, with candor and effectiveness, whether you agree with what he did or not, spoke out about the importance of protecting the country and the importance of informing the public about some of our critical programs. We are delighted that Marshall Bouton will deliver today's keynote address. Marshall has led the Chicago Council on Global Affairs for the past decade and, like me, is a policy junkie. He previously held several wonky titles, including Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Asia Society, Director for Policy Analysis for Near East, Africa, and South Asia in the Department of Defense, Special Assistant to the U.S. Ambassador to India, and Executive Secretary for the Indo-U.S. Subcommission on Education and Culture. But even more impressive than his resume is his obvious passion and commitment to fostering essential debate about tough issues. Please join me now in welcoming Dr. Bouton, who, unfortunately for the Chicago Council, will be leaving there sometime next year. Marshall will tell us more about the results of the fascinating new survey. We'll offer keynote remarks, and then we will move to the panel. Please welcome Marshall Bouton.